Welcome to our channel. If you love exciting Bible stories, you're in the right place. Today, we're sharing the thrilling story of Jehu and the fall of Queen Jezebel, full of action, drama, and surprises. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Let's get started.
A long time ago, the people of Israel forgot about the true God who had taken care of them for so many years. They started praying to a false god called Baal. This happened because of a wicked queen named Jezebel. Jezebel was the wife of King Ahab, and she was very clever, but also very mean. She told the people that Baal could bring rain, make their crops grow, and give them good luck. The people believed her, even though it wasn't true. Jezebel did terrible things to anyone who still prayed to the true God. She sent soldiers to hurt God's prophets, and many of them had to hide in caves to stay safe. She built altars and temples for Baal all over Israel. The land became full of evil, and the people were sad and afraid. But even when everything seemed dark, God was watching. He had a plan to bring justice and save his people. One day, God spoke to Elisha, his prophet, and told him about the plan. Elisha called a young prophet and gave him a bottle of oil. "Take this oil," Elisha said, "and go to Ramoth-Gilead. Find Jehu, one of the commanders of the army. Take him to a private place, pour the oil on his head, and tell him that God has chosen him to be the new king of Israel. Then leave quickly." The young prophet was nervous. What if someone saw him? What if Jehu didn't believe him? But he obeyed Elisha and went to Ramoth-Gilead. When he arrived, he saw Jehu sitting with a group of soldiers. He walked up to Jehu and said, "Commander, I have a message for you." Jehu looked surprised, but stood up and followed the young man into a private room. Once they were alone, the prophet poured the oil on Jehu's head. "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says," the prophet began. "I anoint you as king over Israel. You must destroy the family of Ahab and Jezebel, because they have done so many evil things. You will bring justice for the prophets and all the people they have hurt." Before Jehu could say a word, the prophet ran away. Jehu stood there, stunned. Was this real? Could it be true that God had chosen him for such an important job? Jehu walked back to his fellow soldiers, who looked at him curiously. "What did that strange man want?" one of them asked. At first, Jehu tried to brush it off. "Oh, you know how these prophets are," he said. "He's just a babbler." But the soldiers wouldn't stop asking, so finally, Jehu told them the truth. "God has anointed me as king of Israel." The soldiers were amazed. Then they started shouting, "Jehu is king! Jehu is king!" They took off their cloaks and laid them on the steps, making a sort of throne for Jehu to sit on. The sound of trumpets filled the air as the soldiers celebrated. But Jehu didn't have time to celebrate. He knew what he had to do. King Joram, the son of Jezebel and Ahab, was ruling Israel, but he had been wounded in a battle. He was resting in the city of Jezreel. Jehu gathered his men and rode off in his chariot, ready to confront Joram. The wheels of the chariot kicked up a cloud of dust as they raced toward the city. At Jezreel, a guard standing on the city wall saw Jehu and his men coming. He quickly ran to tell King Joram. "I see a group of men riding toward the city," the guard said. Joram frowned. "Send a rider to find out if they come in peace," he ordered. A rider galloped out to meet Jehu. "Do you come in peace?" the rider asked. Jehu shouted back, "What do you know about peace? Fall in behind me." The rider, confused but afraid, joined Jehu's group. The guard on the wall saw this and ran back to Joram. "The rider hasn't returned," he said. "Send another one," Joram replied, growing worried. The second rider went out, and Jehu gave the same answer. "What do you know about peace? Fall in behind me." The second rider also joined Jehu's group. Now the guard on the wall was really alarmed. "The men aren't coming back, and the man driving the lead chariot drives like Jehu. He drives like a madman," he told the king. Joram's face turned pale. He quickly ordered his chariot to be prepared and went out to meet Jehu, bringing his nephew, King Ahaziah of Judah, with him. The two kings met Jehu in a vineyard that had once belonged to a man named Naboth. Joram's father, Ahab, had taken this vineyard in a very wicked way, and God had promised to punish Ahab's family for it. When Joram saw Jehu, he asked, "Do you come in peace, Jehu?" But Jehu's voice was loud and angry as he replied, "How can there be peace as long as your mother Jezebel keeps doing evil things like witchcraft and idolatry?" Joram's eyes widened in fear. He turned his chariot to flee, shouting, "Treachery, Ahaziah!" But Jehu grabbed his bow, pulled back the string, and let an arrow fly. The arrow struck Joram in the back, and he fell dead in his chariot. Jehu ordered his men to throw Joram's body into Naboth's vineyard. "This is God's judgment," he said. "The Lord has paid back Ahab's family for what they did to Naboth." Ahaziah saw what happened and tried to escape, but Jehu chased him down. Ahaziah was wounded and later died in the city of Megiddo. With both kings gone, Jehu turned his attention to Jezebel. Jezebel had heard about Jehu's approach. She wasn't scared. She was proud and stubborn. She put on makeup, fixed her hair, and sat by a window in her palace. When Jehu arrived, she leaned out of the window and called down to him. "Have you come in peace, you Zimri, murderer of your master?" she sneered. She was mocking Jehu, comparing him to a man named Zimri who had killed a king long ago. Jehu looked up at the window and shouted, "Who is on my side?" "Who?" Some of Jezebel's servants, called eunuchs, looked out at him. Jehu pointed at Jezebel and said, "Throw her down!" The eunuchs grabbed Jezebel and pushed her out of the window. She fell to the ground with a loud crash, and blood splattered everywhere. Jehu's horses trampled over her as he entered the palace. Later, Jehu told his men to bury her. "She was a queen," he said. But when they went to find her body, only her skull, hands, and feet were left. Dogs had eaten the rest, just as God had said would happen. Jehu wasn't finished yet. He sent letters to the leaders of a city where Ahab's 70 sons lived. The letters said, "If you are loyal to me, bring me the heads of Ahab's sons." The leaders were so afraid of Jehu that they obeyed. They killed the 70 sons and sent their heads to Jehu in baskets. Jehu stacked the heads at the city gate as a warning to anyone who might try to stop him. Jehu also got rid of Baal worship in a very clever way. He told everyone, "Ahab worshipped Baal a little, but I will worship him a lot. Let's have a big festival for Baal." Baal's priests and followers were so excited that they all came to the temple. Jehu made sure they wore special clothes so they could be easily identified. The temple was packed. Jehu had soldiers waiting outside. Once the doors were locked, he gave the signal, and the soldiers rushed in. They killed everyone who worshipped Baal. Then Jehu destroyed the temple and burned it to the ground. He made sure Baal worship was wiped out of Israel. God was pleased with Jehu for bringing justice to Ahab's family and destroying Baal worship. He promised Jehu that his children would rule Israel for 4 generations. But Jehu made a mistake. He didn't destroy the golden calves at Bethel and Dan, and some people continued to worship idols. This made God sad. Jehu ruled Israel for 28 years. He worked hard to bring justice, but the land still had problems. When Jehu grew old and died, his son Jehoahaz became king. Before he died, Jehu prayed, asking God to take care of Israel and his family. Jehu's story teaches us that God is just and always keeps his promises. But it also reminds us to obey God completely, not halfway. Jehu did many good things, but he didn't fully turn the people back to God. We should always trust and follow God with all our hearts.
Isn't that an incredible story? Jehu's journey to bring justice is one of the Bible's most action-packed tales. Let us know in the comments which Bible story you'd like us to create next. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can join us for more amazing Bible adventures. Thanks for watching. and see you in the next video.